All right, Fireman Ed, we're going to get into some of your origin stories, your backgrounds. Your first question that we have for you is, where were you born and raised?
I was born in Mount Sinai in Manhattan is where I was actually born, the hospital. My family lived in Astoria, Queens. And then we moved to College Point in Queens also, the home of champions.
So what was your childhood like growing up?
Very good. You know, big sports-oriented town. So was into football, basketball, baseball. Played all three sports. Didn't play football until I was like 13. My parents wouldn't let me play until I was, a little older. I was a big baseball player when I was young. And basketball. I could actually dunk when I was a kid.
What was your best sport?
My best sport, I think, playing was probably football. My brother's still pissed off at me. Well, he died 2 years ago, but he was so mad at me because he said I was good at all three sports. He says, but you weren't great at any. He wanted me to concentrate on one. And of course, I didn't listen.
Yeah.
I wanted to play all three, so I did. You see where that got me.
So they call you Fireman Ed for a reason. What kind of inspired you to become a fireman in the first place, and what department did you serve in? How long were you there for?
Became a New York City fireman in 1987. Worked out of Engine 221, Ladder 104 in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, the South Side, Driggs Avenue in Williamsburg. Back then it was a tough area. A lot of drugs, a lot of vacant buildings. We went to fires, but not enough for me. I wanted to go up to, I wound up going up to Engine 69, Ladder 28, and the 16th Battalion was called the Harlem Hilton up in Harlem. So I went up there in 3 years later. I was up there in 91, and I was up there till I was 2007, 2008. I was up there in Harlem. As far as Fireman Ed I was not self-proclaimed Fireman Ed. In 84, we went up from Shea Stadium, we went up to Giant Stadium. So the first 2 years we were there, hated it. It was dead. It was not like Shea Stadium. I decided I was going to start running up and down the aisle to get the crowd going. We were in the lower tier. We were on the 15-yard line on the visitors' side. What used to happen was in that stadium, it would go back and forth in the end zones, the jet chant would go back and forth, 301 and 319. Guy by the name of Dom Valenza and Donnie Schaefer were in the two. Donnie Schaefer was a cop, New York City cop, and Dom was from my neighborhood in College Point, Whitestone. So they used to go back and forth in the end zones doing a jet chant. Who was going to be louder? So the lower tier was dead. And I says to my brother, I said, I ain't staying here if we don't do something. So I started running up down the aisle. I actually went on the railing to try to let the fans see me. I'm waving my helmet. I almost fell over. I went over the railing, and I was literally on my legs. My knees were locked into the top railing, and I was dangling. It was like a 10-foot drop. So I'm going to my brother, Frankie! Comes over, he grabs me around my shirt, and he goes, what are you doing? Get on my shoulders. I went on his shoulders. One thing led to another. Next thing you know, we're on Chris Berman from ESPN, NFL Countdown with Tom Jackson. Chris Berman goes, the Jets and their fans were led by Fireman Ed, leading the Jet faithful in J-E-T-S, Jets. I went to the game the following week. It was bonkers. And then it just slowly started to take off, and well, that's how it all happened.
How did you get your name? How do you know you were Ed?
He found out my name was Ed Anzalone, and Eddie Anzalone, and he decided to call me Fireman Ed. And the funny thing is, years later, not to skip over so many things, but years later, they had ESPN, the magazine came out. And it came out in maybe 89, and I'm on the fourth edition. Randy Moss was on the front cover. They used to do a commercial. They were all dressed in graduation gowns and caps. And it was Chris Berman, Tom Jackson, Jim Kelly, Joe Theismann, Sterling Sharp, and Chris Mortensen. They were all on this day, and I was in the middle of them on my brother's shoulders, and I got a diploma from it wasn't real, it was Bristol University for Bachelor of Fanaticism. So that's on the ESPN, the magazine, you see that.
Let's go back to the fireman story. What kind of pursued you to go into that career?
My uncles were firemen. I always, every kid, well, most kids, like, they see the fire truck, right? When you're young and you look and see the fire truck, you get all excited, right? Being in the city of New York, you see the fire truck all the time. What really convinced me was, back then, it's not like now. Your jobs would be Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, There was no in between, and I used to say, I don't want to do that. My uncles would be off on a Tuesday afternoon. My uncles would be off. They'd be lifting weights. They'd be at a softball game playing softball, and I'm going to their games. I'm working out. I'm running with them, and I'm going, I think I could like this life, right? And they would work 24 on, be 3 days off, 72 off. And I started talking, and my uncle says, you got to get yourself in real good shape. You want to get on the fire department. It's not an easy thing. And then I just pursued it, and eventually, knock on wood, I got it. I got on New York City Fire Department in 1987. Just turning 28 years old.
So how did that shape your life going forward?
Made my life, actually.
Yeah.
My only regret about the New York City Fire Department, I have one regret that will live with me forever. I wish I could do it again. One more time.
Could you do one more shift? Are you trying to do that?
I got one left in me. Come on. I say that with football. I got one hit left in me. They'll probably carry me off the field, but I got one shot. I got one left.
So what made you a Jets fan specifically? Where did that fandom come from?
My brother Frankie, who carried me. My brother Frankie was my older brother. He was 6.5 years older than me. What happened was when I was a kid, my father wasn't a football fan. So my father was a baseball fan. He was a New York Giant fan. Back then it was the Giants and the Brooklyn Dodgers and the Yankees. Eventually they left, and when the Mets came in, he became a Met fan. So I was a big baseball fan. And right there, Shea Stadium was right where I lived, so I used to go to all the baseball games. They wouldn't let me play football, so I was more into baseball, right? So when I did watch football, of course, as a kid, being young, who do you go for? You go for all the teams that are winning. Back then in the 70s, it was the Steelers, the Raiders, the Dolphins, and the Cowboys. Those were the teams that were winning. So I became a Dolphin and a Cowboy fan.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, and back
On
then
the
I was,
record, you were a
yeah,
Dolphins
no,
fan?
everybody, they'll dispute. Well, he was a Dolphin fan. You always hear that nonsense. That's fine. So anyway, once I got a little 15 minutes of fame, they seen a sweatshirt of me with a Dolphin sweatshirt on when I was 13 or 14 in my freshman year in high school. I had a Dolphin sweatshirt on. So, of course, they broke my chops. And what happened was my brother Frankie got season tickets in 1974 for the Jets.
Okay.
And he says to me, would you come to a game? So I said, I don't want to go to a Jet game. He goes, come on, come to the Jet game with me. So I was playing football back then. We played at 10:30 in the morning in College Point. So I got done. He says, give Dad your equipment and run down to College Point Boulevard over the Flushing Bay Bridge. He goes, we're underneath, if you know Shea Stadium, well, Citi Field, still the circle there, there's the Grand Central Parkway. They tailgate right under there. That's where my brother used to tailgate. So he says, you meet me over there. So I ran, I got the black still under my eyes, right? I'm 15 years old.
This is your first game?
First game. I run over. The first thing they do, he introduced me to all his guys. They were all 22 years old, right? He goes, this is my kid brother, Eddie. So I said, hey guys, he goes, you want a shot? I said, yeah. It was a shot of Irish Mist. Okay? I have the shot. He goes like this. He goes, do you like that? I said, yeah. He goes, you want another one? I said, yeah. He goes, with his lip, he goes, don't tell Mom. I said, I ain't saying nothing. So I wind up, having shots. Now I'm getting hammered, right?
You're 15?
15. I'm in the game. After the game, my brother goes to me, did you have fun? I said, yeah. He goes, you gonna be a Jet fan? I said, I am now. We haven't won a goddamn thing since I became a Jet fan. And then when they say to me, you were a Dolphin fan, you like the Cowboys, I says, what does that mean? Should you give me a medal? Because I went for a team that hasn't won anything. So what's your point? I was a kid. My father had no allegiance to football. My big brother gets season tickets. I go with that idiot. And I've been a Jet fan ever since. We haven't won anything.
It's funny, I have a similar story. When you say, like, when you're a kid, you kind of gravitate towards the teams that are winning.
Yes.
So I was in 6th, 7th grade. This is in 2009, 2010, back when they were winning. My dad wasn't a football fan either, but when I'd be with him and his friends, they were big fans, and I'm seeing they just keep winning and winning. Towards the end of the season, 2009, I'm watching that Bengals game to win, to get into the playoffs, to play the Bengals again. And so I'm watching on the TV with my dad's friends, and I'm like, this is amazing. This is such a good team. You know what? I'm going to be a winner picker. I'm going to choose this team because they're winning.
How little did you know?
And then they got to the
We haven't won since.
Yeah.
We haven't literally won since.
Yeah, so I always say the Jets haven't made the playoffs since I last became a fan back in 2009.
They tell me I'm the kiss of death. Maybe you are.
Yeah. When you're at these games, you wear that 42 Harper jersey.
Yes.
What's the story behind that?
What happened was, like I said, my brother got the season tickets, right? So in '77, we drafted Bruce Harper. We didn't have a 42 that was any consistency on the team. So Bruce Harper became a Jet fan. And I think in '77 or '78, me and my two buddies went on the train from the 7 line down to Grand Central to Penn Station. We went down to Penn Station. And back then, you could only get a tailor-made jersey at the Garden, at Cosby's in the Garden. I don't even know if the Cosby's is still in the Garden. There's a sports store right in the middle of the Garden. It was called Cosby's. They had the only contract to get a actual jersey.
Only place in the world
Only place you could get one. So we went on a train, me and my buddies. I got a Bruce Harper jersey, 42, because I used to wear 42 for Paul Warfield. Paul Warfield is a Hall of Famer. He played for the Browns and the Dolphins. So I loved Paul Warfield as a player, and I wore number 42. That's what I wore when I played football. I was a linebacker and a tight end wide receiver. So I wore 42. So I went down and got Bruce Harper's jersey. My buddy got Crutchfield, and the other guy got Stan Blinker. Who knew years later that I would become Fireman Ed years later, but I never stopped wearing Bruce's jersey. So
is that the same jersey, or you?
I still have well, I got a bunch of them. Through the years they get old and stuff, and they change uniforms.
Yep.
I've been wearing Bruce forever, and I got to know Bruce. Bruce came down to the seats one year and surprised me. He was sitting in my seats before I got there, and he goes like this. He didn't know if I knew him. He goes, "Am I in your seat, or are you in my seat?" I laughed. I said, "Bruce." We hugged and wound up getting to know one another. I went out to dinner with him, wound up being a part of his foundation. Really, really nice.
What is the backstory of the JETS chant?
Well, the actual Jet chant, if you go on my Instagram, Fireman Ed 42, you will see a pin clip of SNY. My son does a tremendous job of my social media. I mean, I'm old school. I listen to everything he says, so he's running the show. We're doing pretty good. We'll do a lot better if we ever win. You'll see SNY. I went on and I got all the guys that were the original Jet chant back in Shea Stadium. I got them all together in studio because everybody's saying, "You didn't do the Jet chant, you didn't start it, you didn't lead it." I said, I gotta end this whole thing. I gotta get this straightened out. So I got them all together. And if you go on, you'll see the guy who originally did it was Larry Mack. He was a New York City firefighter. What he did was back in Shea Stadium, he put a colored wig on, and he had pom-poms, and he put J-E and T-S on his ass. And what he'd do is he'd do the chant and then turn around and moon the other team. That's just a fact. That's all on there. You see it all. And then you see Donnie Schaefer, Dom Valenza. They did it in the Meadowlands when we went up there. Yeah. And then me and my brother made it, we got it even bigger as the years went on. We were, humbled, and it was an honor. Really.
So you guys didn't start it, but you really promoted.
We did. We got it to where it is today. You got to be humbled by the fact that people want to listen to you. So I never take that for granted. I always, You know, I'm always humbled by that. But the biggest thing, I mean, I've always said this to Jet fans. I says the two things we have in our history is we have the '69 Super Bowl with Joe Willie, and you got the Jet chant, the greatest chant in all of sports. If we lose that, we ain't got much.
Have you ever tried doing it at an away game?
I have. I've done I've rocked the house. I rocked a lot of houses, but the one that I rocked, probably the best one, was probably Miami. Stuart Scott, God rest his soul, actually led Sports Center with me in sports. You hear da-da-da, da-da-da, and you see me like this up in Miami, up in the upper stands, and it was loud. We had thousands, maybe 10,000 Jet fans doing a Jet chant. He goes, "Here's Fireman Ed. He rocked." Oh, back then it was Joe Roby Stadium. He rocked Joe Roby Stadium, and they led with it. And then he says to me, I'm going to tell you, I was hungover like you never seen. I'm in the Marriott where Schuler's is on Fort Lauderdale on the beach, and I'm sitting there on the bed like this. I mean, I might have got out at 5 in the morning. I don't even remember, right? And I'm looking, and he's talking to me. Literally talking to me on the screen. He's going, "And you know, Fireman Ed, why are you wearing the white in Miami when you know you gotta be the green, the visiting green? Why are you wearing the white? Somebody's got to talk to you." And I'm looking at him. I was like, guys, when you hung over and you go like, "Is he actually talking to me?" It was the wildest scene, bro. It was the craziest thing. There's good footage of me when Sam Darnold's first game. In Detroit, we rocked the house in Detroit because we blew them out. If you remember his first pass, the interception, I think pick 6.
Yep.
But then he rocked them. Through the years, I've done quite a few stadiums.
What's your favorite one to visit on away games?
I love Tampa. Tampa with the. Have you been down to Tampa?
I've been down to Tampa once, but I never went to the game.
Oh,
they
you got to go to the game.
Right?
The cannons are great. The only wacky thing about that, you can't get from one side to the other. You got to go down and go back around to go to the other side. What's not to love about Dallas? Cowboy Stadium's phenomenal. You know, there's another good one, Lucas Oil in Indianapolis. Great. And good fans. Good fans. Midwestern fans are great fans. West Coast, East Coast, now brutal.
It's going to be a tough one. Let's see if we can keep this to one. What's your best memory from a Jets game?
The greatest memory's got to be our last playoff game at home in 2002 when we beat Peyton Manning with 41-0. I had that place rocking. And that's probably my favorite away would be when we beat Brady.
You were at that game?
And yeah, I was there. They had to escort me off the field into the players' locker room because they wanted my helmet.
How'd you get on the field?
Well, the security.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Kraft took care of me that day. I met Mr. Kraft years before, and he said, if you ever come up to New England, he says, tell the Jets, and we'll take care of you, and he did. We bought tickets, $600 each on the first row for that game, and told him I was coming.
That's a steal these days.
Yeah, and he was on the field with Bon Jovi, and he says, the security comes over, and he go, Mr. Kraft is looking to get your attention. So I look over at him, and he goes, Ed, Fireman. He goes, enjoy yourself today. Have a ball. I said, thank you, Mr. Kraft. With that, here comes 4 monsters down the aisle in their jackets. I said, oh, what's this now? He goes, listen, Mr. Kraft assigned us to you today.
Wow.
He wants you to enjoy yourself. He says, all the food and drinks, he says, just let us know who you're with. He says, and you have whatever you want. He goes, and he wants to make sure that you have a good time. He says, you have any problems, we're assigned to you. We're right here in the podium. He goes, you just go like this, we'll be down. He goes, he wants you to have fun today. Little did he know we were going to beat their ass. One of the few times, but we beat their ass.
VIP treatment in the away game. Wow.
And then what happened was they had a bounty for my helmet. The guys came down and said, there's about 100 guys up, waiting for me to get my helmet.
This helmet?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. And so they had to escort me off the field. People don't really know that story, but it's a fact.
Wow.
Went in the players' locker room and put a hat on and a different shirt, and like nobody ever knew me. Put the thing under my arm and said, oh, I couldn't wait to get back to the car because we were going to party our ass off because we had a 5-hour drive back home.
What's it like connecting with the younger generation of Jets fans, the fans that you see at the tailgates around there? What's that been like over the last few years?
Probably my favorite memory, probably my favorite experience is the fans. The fans, the families, so many families, whether it's mother, daughter, father, son, just complete families that love them. And, you know, they cherish it and they have their traditions and they do their thing in the parking lots and, you know, whatever it might be. And then what I love is to ask them, you know, how'd you become a Jet fan? Mm-hmm. You know, that's always like...
it's always a story.
It is. It's always a great story, you know, and it all varies. It varies from all different things. But, you know, that's where the honor and the privilege is. To be able to lead the greatest chant in all of sports and, you know, get to meet all the fans. And like, you know, everybody doesn't love Fireman Ed. You know, I don't know why. I always say if they knew me, they wouldn't think that way, but that's life. When you get a little notoriety, everybody, you know, that's the way it works. But that is probably my greatest, I love that the most because the young, they keep me pumped up. They're the ones that drive me to keep doing what I'm doing. When I see these maniacs out there and I'm like, I was one of you.
I mean, you still are. You still rock with them.
I still roll, you know. But that's what keeps you going, you know, because Lord knows you need something. The team ain't doing it.
What do you hope your legacy as a fan will be?
Just that my passion and love for the team was real, was what it was. I just believe in life, you know. If you're real, everybody knows it. If you're a phony, they know you're a phony. I think what you see is what you get. I've always felt that way. What you see is what you get. There might be, and you can argue this, there might be big Jet fans as me. There's none bigger. There might be as big, and that includes Gary V.
I was going to say, who do you think?
That includes Gary V. Gary knows it. He knows it.
I think he would challenge you on that.
He would, but we go back and forth. You know, he knows how. You know I know how he loves him. This is what you want. You want that love.
Yep.
The love that Gary has, and the love that I have. We need more fans like that. We need more fans like that. Listen, I was fortunate. I lived it. You know, there's been a lot of experiences, a lot of things. I could talk, because there was so many. And that's where, you know, that's where the thrill and the love and the desire, you know, comes from because of the experiences that you deal with. Because Lord knows we're not having as much success as, you know, most teams in the NFL. So
any team.
They always said we were cursed. I never bought into that. Make your own way. But when he went down with that Achilles, I tell you, my whole mindset changed because I was there when Vinny.
Well.
I was there when Vinny. When Vinny went down, and we were the favorite back then. In '99, we were the favorite. We went to the championship game against Denver the year before and lost to Elway. I was there in Mile High. We were up 10-0, lost 23-10. Okay, we were up 10-0 in the third quarter, and we lost. The following year, we were the favorite to go to Super Bowl, and he busted his Achilles against New England at home.
Just like Rodgers. It was
just
the exact
like Rodgers,
same thing.
Same thing. And I just went after that. I went, we are cursed. I believe that because what went on that night with Rodgers, that stadium has never been that loud.
Well, you know who was on the
field? The Giant Stadium was as loud as that place, always. But that night, I was insane.
And you know who they honored before the game?
Yeah, I know. I seen Vinny.
Vinny Testaverde was honored before the game.
I actually seen him. I seen him before the game.
So yeah, those were all the questions I had for the origin content. That was a nice in-depth piece.
Yeah,
I like
good,
that.
good. Glad you. It's from the heart. It's only the truth.